r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. What's the dumbest way you injured yourself as a kid? I attempted to take my brand new roller skates on pavement. I did not understand that it was a terrible idea. I was quite young. I fell and broke my wrist trying to catch myself so I would not land on my butt, which as an adult I think probably would have been preferable. When the doctor removed my cast, I was screaming and crying for him to stop because he was burning me with that tool. He assured my mother I was only scared and I was held down so he could finish. I have a permanently disfiguring scar on my hand as a result. I do not know what is stupider, that an adult automatically assumes a child is screaming from fear and not agony, or that I took roller skirts on pavement instead of waiting for rollerblades. Now that I am thinking on it, I believe that was the first actively traumatizing memory I have. What came before is only half remembered, for which I am grateful. I also have a scar from cast removal. Doctor didn't believe me either. When I was 6 years old I stole a beer at a neighborhood party. Someone saw me and asked me what I thought I was doing, so I told him I was getting it for my dad. He believed me. I drank the beer and got drunk. As now known to me, you should not drink and drive. I learned that day as I crashed my tricycle. That is the story of my 6th concussion. Also, I can proudly say I have never driven drunk since. I feel bad for laughing. When I was about that age, I used to steal drinks of my dad's half-finished beer when he inevitably forgot it on the end table by his chair. Until I found out the hard way that he put his cigarette out in it. Haven't been able to stand beer or cigarettes since, lol. Probably saved me a lot of money over my life. I was told to start the fire on the outdoor grill and was given a cup of gasoline. Age 11. I lit the fire and then spilled the gas on my arm as I tossed the cup on the flames. The fire caught and climbed up the liquid while it was in the air and back into the cup in my hand. My arm caught fire before the liquid fully fell onto the grill. I was so shocked I kind of stood there for a second before my 9-year-old brother shoved me down and started screaming, "Stop, drop and roll. Drop and roll." I think I was like 2 or 3. Me and my older brother ripped open a Beanie Baby and shoved an ungodly amount of the beads in our ears. I was a dumb effing kid. Doctor had to wash and suck out like 20 plus beads out of my brother's and I ears. I was too afraid of going down a slope on a skateboard, so I decided to try to go down while sitting on the skateboard. My thumb went under the wheel and the nail was pulled out right away. It hurt like hell. Not me, but probably a 13-year-old girl was riding her bicycle down the street while texting on her phone, and without looking where she's going drifts off the road and right into the neighbor's tree. She was wearing her riding helmet, but when she fell she landed on her arm, which was bent in a way that an arm shouldn't be bent, and she was screaming in pain. I called an ambulance which came and picked her up. The next day the girl's mom came over and went all Karen on my neighbor saying the tree was planted illegally. It might have been. He planted it on what he thought was his own property, but it could have been the strip of land the city owns adjacent to street. He never had it surveyed or anything. My neighbor asks me to keep the security cam footage I had when she rode in front of my house in case she tried to sue or something, but we never heard any more. Big surprise. My own story, I was probably 10 and we were going to the water park and I was so excited I was bounding up and down in the car and my head hit the dome light, smashed it, and cut my head open on a metal piece. Instead of the water park we went the ER and I got stitches and a tetanus shot. 3 classmates of mine in high school rented rollerblades with absolutely no idea how to use them. On the first steep hill one of them wound up over, one of them in, and one of them under a fence at the bottom. The one that went under the fence wasn't hurt as bad as the other 2 and was laughing, so the other 2 started hitting her until she was crying too. I'm not sure how bad their injuries were, but the ambulance did take 2 of them to the hospital. When I was in 2nd or 3rd grade the teacher had us move our desks around in class for some reason. We had those kind of desks with the wooden top and the metal cubby underneath. At one point I bent down to grab something off the floor and somehow slammed my mouth into the metal part and chipped one of my front teeth. I amazingly didn't freak out, and I don't even think it hurt that much, but I looked down and there my tooth chunk was on the floor by my feet. I didn't ask to go to the nurse or even tell my teacher what happened, and I guess no one saw it cause I don't remember anyone asking if I was alright. In that moment, all my little kid brain could think was that I could probably still get at least a quarter from the tooth fairy for this, as no one had specified that she needed full teeth for the exchange. So I just casually slipped it into my pocket and didn't say a word about it for the rest of the day. When I got home I showed my mom to get her thoughts on what I could get for the tooth chunk, but surprisingly she wasn't as eager to talk business as I was. My tooth is fine now, so I assume it was a baby tooth, so no harm done. I didn't get my due interest for the tooth chunk, which I think is actually the most painful part of the whole thing. Jumped off a swing set and broke my arm. A week after my older sister had jumped off a swing set and broke her arm. I had made a jump for my bike out of 2 cinder blocks and a piece of plywood. I was having the time of my life jumping my bike pretending it was a motorcycle. Then it started to rain. I put my bike in the garage and waited by the window for the rain to stop so I could continue my daredevil escapades in the driveway. Well, after about an eternity. The rains let up and I ran outside, got my bike and pedaled my bike as fast as I could go. I was completely unaware of what effect water has on plywood. I hit the jump. The wood bent in a way it had not bent before the rain and I was launched straight up in the air. I landed back first on the 2 cinder blocks and then the bike landed on top of me. With the wind knocked out of me I laid there in quiet agony, not having the air in my lungs to muster a decent cry of pain for a few minutes. I thought it'd be cool, I guess, to take a flake of hot pepper from the pizza place pepper shaker and try to hold it on my tongue as long as possible. It's been at least 35 years, and I still have a numb spot there. Holy ducking crap. At 7 years old my friend and I climbed a tree across the street from his house. At 35 feet I noticed the high voltage line running right next to the canopy and pointed at it saying, "Look how high we..." Flash of light from the 20,000 volt arc and I spent the next year in and out of the hospital for multiple skin grafts. I'm now a professional arborist and I climb trees for a living. I was 5 years old and giving attitude to my mom, threatening to run away from home if she won't feed me hot dogs for lunch. I grumpily grabbed the door open and the doorknob hit me squarely in the forehead. It swelled up real bad. Your mom must have had to stifle some serious laughter. Put a bottle of water in the microwave. It exploded when I wanted to take it out. I brought some friends home from school at lunchtime to show them my new pellet gun. I ended up shooting myself in the eye from a ricochet and almost lost it. 5 days in the hospital later, I could finally see out of it and realized I wouldn't be blind. When I was like 5 to 9 years old I liked setting traps for bad guys. This could have been a potentially dangerous hobby, except I sucked at it. None of them ever worked. The last trap I ever made was probably the least thought through one I did, and the only one that worked. I had this small section of scrap wood, so I just propped it up balanced on 2 branches on a small, flimsy tree on a hill. I said to myself, a bad guy will grab this tree to stable himself on this hill and the board will fall and hit his head. Yup, that's the fantasy world I lived in. I walked away and forgot about it. A couple weeks later, I'm making my way down that hill, and I suddenly get an intense sharp pain in my head. But, damn it, at least one of them worked. I jumped to the roof of the house. I jumped from a single-story house, landed on my feet, then my knees came up and hit me in eyes. I had 2 black eyes for weeks. Not me, but my boyfriend told me he needed stitches when he was a small kid, because he and his cousin both pretended to be Chucky and played with real knives. My sister and I rubbed poison ivy leaves all over our bodies to get out of going to school. It worked. Tried to do a backflip on a marble floor and now I got an airport of a nose. I thought it would be funny to slap a beehive. It was not a good idea. The 26th of December. Got a pogo stick for Christmas and decided the icy floor was the best place to use it. Mop. Don't touch the stove. It's still hot. Me. Puts my hand on stove and burns it. Fired my first hunting rifle when I was a teenager. I had fired guns before. Gun safety was very paramount in my family. However, nobody ever thought to show me how to properly use a scope. Dumbass me pressed my eye right up against the scope and fired, driving the edge back into my face. I have a nice Harry Potter-esque scar on my orbital socket now. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. Have a nice evening.